To Sedro Woolley Rotary Club, the greatest Rotary club in the Mr. Mike Janicki.
We have a prayer today. Typically, I'll have a real long prayer, but John can today that he only like short prayer. So I just want to thank God for this beautiful weather. Thank God for the food that we had today. Thank God for Rotary, and God bless America.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test: is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And Mr. Mike Schweigert has a song for us.
Sir. Okay, I know a couple of weeks ago we sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." I don't know. I wasn't here last week. I don't know if we sang it again. But I'm an old baseball coach, very superstitious. Mariners heading into the playoffs tomorrow, so we're gonna sing it again.
It's been a major theme.
Here we go. Take me out to the ball.
Take me out to the ball. I'm some peanuts and cracker jacks. I don't care if I ever do that for you. Rooting for the man. It's a shame. So it's 1, 2, 3 strikes you're out of me. Oh, ball.
Very appropriate, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay, I know we have some members that have found us today, but do we have any visitors or visiting Rotarians or guests today? I do want to welcome Aldi and Joe. So, okay. Club business. We do have a board meeting coming up on Tuesday night. It'll be down at the Janicki office down on Ferry and Metcalf. That'll be at 5:30. Everybody is welcome to attend. And we'll be talking about a couple of projects that we've been working on. It's the restroom project at Janicki, the pickleball project, the Gates Learning Center. Those are the 3 big ones I think we're looking at right now. So we're going to have a little more detail, a little more cost, what it's going to take. And then we'll talk a little bit more as a board about our next steps in supporting those projects. Mount Vernon Rotary coming up, their auction coming up November 18th. They have 4 seats available. If you're interested in going to that, let me know. They're comping us 4 tickets. Rich and I and Becky and our spouses went to the Burlington auction over at the Swinomish last Saturday. And it was nice to get together and talk and see some old friends there. So if you're interested in going to the Mount Vernon Rotary, let me know. We'll see if we can get a couple of tickets comp for you through their generous donations. The Anacortes Centennial Celebration still the 23rd. They have 10 seats. Just letting you know, they're offering us 10 seats for that, for their auction and celebration on the February 23rd. District 50/50 Foundation Dinner coming up. It's going to be at the Clarion Hotel in Abbotsford, BC. It's Wednesday, November 16th at 5:30 p.m. I think, Becky, do you know a little bit more about that? Where'd Becky go? Okay. So I got the email that came through. I just want to toss that out there, see if anybody was interested in going to that and go from there. That's all I have with club business. Does anybody have club business from the floor? Okay, very good. Okay, we do have a raffle today, I think. Miss Becky?
Okay, here we go. Yeah. Let you pull some numbers out of there. Our first winner. Our first winner is number 19. Number 19. Anybody have 19?
Griffey, number 24. No, it's Jersey.
Farmer Supply.
Farmer
There
Supply,
you go.
number 44, number 44. Mark. Oh, you got the beer. Okay, we have a lucky number 4. Lucky number 4.
There you go.
Mike Mosier. Pays to come in late, doesn't it? Okay, we're gonna do one more. We raised a lot of money today, so if you're feeling lucky, number 32, number 32. Yay.
Very good. Okay, and Eric, the senior, is Sergeant of Arms today.
Yeah, we have some trivia questions, and you guessed it, it's going to be Mariner related. David, could you pick up over in that side? Okay, thank you. So we'll start with this table, and because you're limited in the brain trust, as usual, we'll give you something that's fairly easy. What major league player made his debut for the Mariners in 2001? Correct. Very good. Okay, let's see. Okay, how many seasons have the Mariners played? Yeah. We a little quicker. We can. 41? No, sorry, 45 seasons. That'll be $1 from all of you.
1977, right?
All right. Do we have Mariner
That was a
fans over
great
here? Any Mariner fans? No? Good. So, who did the Mariners play the night they clinched the playoffs for this season? And what was the score? Really? Oh my gosh. That's sad. It was Oakland and the score was 2-1. Do we have Mariner fans over here? I know you are.
This is only 95, right?
Okay, so what pitcher has pitched the most games in Mariner history? That's your final answer? That'll be $1 each. It was Jeff Nelson, or is Jeff Nelson. All right. You guys look like fans. Okay, what was the Mariners' record in 2001? Well, it's wins and losses. 2001. So, do you agree? What was the record in 2001? Wins and losses. That'll be $1 each. Is 1/6. Oh, no, you're right. 46. I thought it was 41. All right, good job. You ready for a tough one? Okay. We already did that one. Have the Mariners played by any other name than Mariners? That'll be $1. They have not. They've always been the Mariners. No, no. All right, that's it. So, I'm also going to be fining myself because my wife and I are heading off for vacation next week, and I'm not going to be here. Both of us aren't going to be here, of course, but because of birthdays and anniversary, I'm going to fine myself $38 for not being here for our anniversary. We've been married 38 years. And then Julia, it'll be her birthday next Thursday, and no, the following Thursday. And well, I can't really tell you how much I'm going to fine her for that, but she's going to get a fine too. So because I'm going to be gone, Daryl Heisler will be filling in for me on the camera next Thursday. However, he's not able to do that the following Thursday. So I need to see a volunteer, somebody's hand come up to volunteer to run the audio and the video display. Thank you. I was going to pick somebody if a hand didn't come up, but thank you. All right. I think that's all we have for that.
Happy dollar.
Oh, happy bucks.
Happy bucks.
Just happy. I got the bugs of 10 different states on the front of my truck. Did about 7,500 miles road trip. And now retirement is truly set in. My wife left for work yesterday. I just got home and thinking, what the hell am I going to do now? Oddly enough, I have plenty to do, but wanted to thank everybody for such a wonderful send off for my retirement. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this is going to work. This may be my last 20. My wife was looking at me as an unemployed guy hanging out in her basement, but
Thank you. Any other happy bucks? Anybody happy?
Just back from a fishing trip up to Yakutat. Saw Freddie Vochhauser's old place. We didn't stay at Leonard's Landing, but Rotary was up there as well. So yeah, good trip. Lots of fish.
Anyone else?
Eric, I'm happy. Been doing a mini refit on my sailboat, have a 30-foot sailboat, and been working on it all summer long, trying to work with the yard, the CSR, to haul it out. They put me on the list. I've been waiting 3 months to haul the boat out. I got it hauled out this week so I can work on the bottom and things. So I'm happy. I got it hauled out.
So, you know how we're doing projects, and this afternoon at 4 o'clock, some of us are gonna meet out at the ball fields. We're trying to figure out the budget for building these bathrooms and stuff, but it's going to be more money than we have. So we're going to have to figure out how to either raise money, do part of it, or whatever. I know that this Rotary Club has done so many projects that they're probably wore out. So anyhow, we're going to see if we can find some new blood to help us. And but that project is going, and we're going to get it done in the next year. So anyhow, at 4 o'clock this afternoon, if you want to come out there and help with the discussion, you can, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Mike.
Anyone else?
Okay, nice job. That takes us to the program today. So I'm going to bring Mr. Mike Janicki up to introduce our program speaker.
So I'll let you guys go that are leaving, but you're going to be missing an unbelievable program from David Janicki. He's probably the one or two of the most talented loggers you'll ever meet. He's got degrees in finance, Spanish. What was the other one? Oh, history. So those really help him when he's climbing a tree. But the good news is that he can actually put a PowerPoint together, and the cards, or whatever they call the flip, not flip cards anymore. The slides will be in the right order, and you can't drop them on the floor and mix them up. So anyhow, without any more introduction, David Janicki is going to talk to you why we log, or something like that.
Thank you, Mike. Hello. Yeah, my name is David Janicki, and I'm going to talk to you about the benefits of thinning. Let's see. Oh, see if I can. You spoke too soon on my ability to work technology. Where do I press? You press the arrows? So the first thing is, what is thinning? And those of you that don't know, typically in the commercial forest, or really any forest, it starts out between 300 to 500 trees per acre. And then a lot of those trees just die, or they get outcompeted. And you can either do nothing and then wait till the timber is 40 or 50 years old, or you can go in when it's 20 to 30 years old and thin. And so typically what you do is you cut a third of the trees, but you want to leave at least 100 trees per acre. And you want to leave the healthiest, most dominant trees if you're doing it for like commercial benefits. But there's also, we've done a lot of thinning for like land trusts that they don't really care about the commercial benefits. They want to create a really cool forest. And so there's multiple ways that you can thin, but basically you want to leave at least 100 trees per acre, and then really focus on the spacing. You want a 20-foot spacing. You don't want to go much past that, because there's always the risk that the trees blow down. And so then the next question is, how do you thin? And we have invested quite a bit of capital into our thinning side. And what you have, the one on the left is it's called a 1510 forwarder, and it's got the cab rotates 360, and it's got these grapples, and it follows the machine on the right side, and it picks up the logs and brings them to the road, and then loads them onto a log truck. And and then the machine on the right is it's called a 1470 harvester, and it's a cut to length processor. So it climbs into the woods and cuts a trail, and it cuts the tree down, runs it through the processor head, takes all the limbs off, and then cuts it into the desired lengths. And they're usually 16 to 20 feet in length. And so that's the equipment that you need to do thinnings. And then this is hopefully this works, just a little video. I don't know if we have, yeah, there's, oh, there might be. And that's Bus Walker. He's one of our best operators, and this is the Pilchuck Tree Farm. They're Victoria Hill track, right in between kind of Conway and just south of Conway. And that one you got there is a dead one, but you want to take those ones out too. Then the big question is why would you thin? And there's three main reasons. And the first is there's a huge economic benefit to thinning, but then also there's an environmental benefit. And especially now with the, kind of big increase in the climate conversation and, how important carbon sequestration is. Thinning greatly benefits that. And that's kind of one of the angles that we're really pushing to try to get the state and the Forest Service to do more active management, because it's good for the wallet, it's good for the environment, and it's great for sequestering carbon. And really, regardless of what the landowner's goals are, thinning is always better than not. And so the economic reasons are and I didn't quite realize this till I kind of came back, but most trees die. So if you have 500 trees, little baby trees to start, in the best case scenario, in 500 years, there's really only going to be 10 of those trees left. Like in a true old growth forest, there's only about 10 trees per acre that make it. And the other ones, they either blow over or they get out competed, they get diseased, or they burn down in a fire. And so by harvesting those trees before they die, you can actually get something out of them, create a product and get paid for them. And then the other main reason is the trees that remain are, and there's been studies done, I didn't include them in this slideshow, but the growth rate after thinning is about 6% more for the remaining trees. So you leave the best trees, they grow faster, they grow taller and wider. And so you make money, and then at the end, you don't sacrifice like the volume on the stand. And then the quality of the logs when you go to final harvest are going to be a lot higher. And because owning a tree farm, you got to have really patient money, and so thinning is a way to get some return on your investment rather than having to wait every 60 or 50 years. And then the environmental reason is, again, most trees die. And if you guys have ever been to where we're logging right now up the Mountain Loop Highway up near Silverton, it's all Forest Service land. It's a really cool area, but there's a lot of just dead forest where, I guess I should actually back up. The forest will naturally thin itself. So we're basically just accelerating that process and eliminating a lot of the waste. And so when in a dead forest, you have 400 trees per acre, but half of them are dead and they're just leaning up against the living trees. No sunlight hits the forest floor, and there's no biodiversity. The only thing there are trees, and most of them are dead. And so by thinning, you remove all those trees that otherwise would have died, and it greatly reduces the fire danger as well, because there's not enough. The fire needs enough fuel to reach the top of those living trees, and the best way to do that is if you got a dead tree sitting up with a living tree, and if it catches on fire, it's kind of like what's happening right now in Skycomish and other spots where the Forest Service has land. But it opens up the canopy, so the forest floor. So now salmon berries and wild blackberries and all sorts of shrubbery starts growing, and you can kind of see it if you ever go to Galbraith Mountain or some of the other tree farms that we manage. The biodiversity is it's a lot. There's a lot more, and then you get the bugs come in, and then the birds and the squirrels and the deer and all sorts of different kind of plants and animals come in when there's space for them to grow. And then the other cool thing about the way we thin is when you harvest the tree, it's at least 60% of the biomass of the tree will stay in the forest. So you take all the limbs off and the top off, plus the stump, and then all of that is added nutrients for the trees that remain, and for bugs and fungi. And so it really accelerates and advances the ecosystem within the particular forest. And then the big one is the carbon, like the climate change angle to thinning. So again, most trees die, and so trees are absorbing carbon their whole life, and then when they die, they start off-gassing that carbon back into the atmosphere. And so if the goal is to sequester carbon, you want to harvest those trees before they die, and then you sequester that carbon. And this is it's a rough calculation. We did a study more kind of in depth on this. That's where we got a lot of this data, but it's about 1 ton of living tree equals like 1 ton of CO2 being captured. And then the trees that remain, since they're growing faster, they grow in weight quicker, and then they absorb even more carbon. And a really interesting thing that I didn't realize was that as forests get older, they actually become carbon neutral. And it makes sense if you think about it, the trees, they get bigger, but then there's a point at about 80 or 100 years old where it just flatlines. And so the volume per acre on those older forests is staying the same. And so they're absorbing carbon, but they're off-gassing it as quickly as they're absorbing it. And so again, if the Forest Service or the DNR, if carbon capture is the goal, then I mean, you wouldn't want to let a tree grow past 80 years old, which I mean, I don't totally agree with, because we like old trees too. But if the goal is to decrease the carbon footprint, then younger forests are actually a lot better at that. And again, this is just some data that we pulled. With younger forests, they're more efficient at removing carbon from the atmosphere, and there's growing evidence that as the temperatures warm, it will lead forests to become carbon neutral at even earlier ages. And so it's just evidence why you should at least thin. And because I know the DNR recently annexed another 15,000 acres for this carbon capture program that they have, which is fine, but when they're not going to do anything, it's kind of frustrating. With a lot of people within the DNR kind of feel that way too. And then this is a video. It's kind of grainy, but this is on Forest Service land that we're working on right now, and the prescription that they have, they're cutting it down to about 80 trees per acre, and it looks great where we've been, but it's kind of a contrast of the thinning side and then what the non-thinning side is. And so this is where we've thinned, and it's kind of grainy. I apologize, but all the dominant trees we left. So the big ones, and then we left all the cedar too. And it's not very good, but then the main point of it is to look at the forest that we haven't thinned and that they're not going to thin. And so this is what it looked like. And you see, I wish I could kind of pause it, but it's just a bunch of stems per acre. Most of those trees are dead. And you see the forest floor, there's nothing growing on there because no sunlight. And this is at, around noon. And so just the difference between thinning and non-thinning, I think the benefits kind of speak for themselves. And that is it. Thank you very much. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Yes. Mm-hmm.
What happens with forest fires out there? Can you repeat the question?
So what happens? How does forest fires affect the logging industry? it depends how bad it is. There has been some salvage jobs where, because a lot of those, the big living trees are actually really flame resistant. So you can do, I know actually the Forest Service is doing some salvage, but typically when it, I mean, if it burns real bad, then there's nothing you can do. It's kind of, forest fires are kind of like nature's clear cut. And so, but what you, to mitigate it, you can constantly be thinning, and then there's not enough fuel to really get the fire going. Yeah. Yes, Carl. Oh, wow.
That's still burning because, what is it, it's unaccessible, that's of course,
So the question was the fire down off Highway 2, and I believe it is still burning, and it was on Forest Service land or state land, and it hadn't been managed for sure. But the I know there's kind of a weird thing where if they catch the fire right away, they have to wait till it gets over 100 acres, because then it becomes federal. And so it's kind of like perverse incentives, but they'll let it get big in order to get the funding to go fight it. And so it's, it's just one of the many head scratching kind of policies they have. But interestingly, we're managing the Snoqualmie Tree Farm, which is kind of right in that area. And they called and were really concerned about, like, hey, this fire, is it going to hurt us? And we're like, well, we gave them some kind of suggestions on what they should do. But we said the nice thing was the Campbell Group, when they sold it to the Snoqualmie Tree Farm Drive, they really logged it hard. And so I said, I don't think you guys have too much to worry about, because there's, if the fire gets to them and then there's no trees, then the fire will die out. So, yes. Oh, yes. Sorry. So the Forest Service we're doing 260 acres. There's about 400 acres of the 2 million that they manage that they're doing stuff on. And the worst part is they actually lose money on those sales, but they sell it to the higher ups because it's good for the forest. And so my thought is, if it's good for the 400 acres, why don't we do it on the 2 million acres? And it doesn't, there's no clear cutting. There's no, especially these like national parks that have been completely annexed. Like, we can keep those as parks, but I would argue that it would be beneficial to the forest and everyone if you constantly thinned it, basically. Yes, sir.
What is the process on your end for kind of determining what is the tree that's going to go towards? And another question I have is, I've also heard that that you can only cut to a certain size of the tree because of the statistics of felling. And what kind of age tree is that?
So the first question, how do we as a company determine what sorry, can you repeat the question? I didn't quite. Oh, okay. Well, if it's state land, then they allocate where the funds go. From the logistical side, we make sure we can get enough tons per acre of saw logs to justify our cost. So that's kind of the way we look at it. But from the state side, they and I feel bad for they have a lot of really great people in the DNR, but their hands are just kind of tied as to what they're allowed to go after. And then for the second question, the two main sawmills, Hampton in Darrington and then Sierra in Burlington, they have it's like 31-inch maximum diameter that they can take, which depending on the site, I mean, it's about 60 to, once it gets past 80 years old, there's going to be a lot of oversized, but I mean, fortunately, there's still a couple oversized mills that can take some of the bigger wood. And so there are options to move it, but yeah, I mean, hopefully at Busey down in Everett and then Great Western in Deming or up in Everson, you can send it there. So, yes. The market for the wood. So it goes to either Sierra or Hampton, and it's chip and saw. So it's mostly, I mean, you get some bigger stuff, but it's typically 5 to 7 inches at the small end for diameter. And so I imagine and it's shorter wood, so they make, I mean, 2x4s or whatever with it, and like 8 and 16-foot lengths. And then the pulp, so the stuff that's even smaller than that, we either send it to Willis down in Everett or we sell it as firewood, which is pretty good. Yes, sir. First question, are there cases where clear cutting is better than thinning? I'd say yes. And I deal with a lot of private landowners and we try to be as flexible as we can with them, but there's sometimes if the stand has been mismanaged or a lack of management for so long, then sometimes the best thing to do is just clear cut and start over. It really just depends on what the landowner hopes to achieve. So if money is the primary driving force, then a lot of times in a mature stand, it is way better to clear cut because it's a lot cheaper and you get a lot more, you gross a lot more volume out of it. And then the second question regarding stumps, we leave the stumps in the ground unless it's like a conversion job where they're going to build houses on it or something, and then that's like an extra thing if the landowner wants to remove the stumps, but typically we leave the stumps in the ground. Okay. Yes.
When you how many snails per acre?
It's countless, but we yeah, quite a few, and we create habitat for new slugs and snails later. And anyone that likes hunting knows that where do deer like to go? In the clear cuts. So gets good. And we've done stuff with Puget Sound Energy where we've done thinning specifically for creating elk habitat. And so there's a infinite number of kind of needs that it can fulfill. Yes, sir.
Thinning once and then clear cutting, or is there a continued thinning?
So it depends on a commercial stand where like the end goal is to do a final harvest. 1 or 2 times is when, so it's either once or twice. And the way it works is, say you have 50 acres, and when the trees are like 12 to 15 years old, you go in and do a pre-commercial thin. It's called a PCT, and you go in and you basically take all the bad trees out of there, the ones that are not going to make it. And then when it's between 20 to 25 or 26 years old, you can do a first entry thinning. And that's basically you just put in corridors put in trails every 60 feet, and you try to take a third of the trees. So if it started at 400 trees per acre, you PCT it down to 350. And then when you do a first entry thin, you're going to cut it down to 250 or 220. And then when it's 30 years old, you could go back in there, or 30 to 35, you could go back in there and thin it one more time and bring it down to like 160 trees per acre. And then again, you get a lot of that volume back because the trees that are left are going to grow that much more. And then the quality of the product is going to be way higher too. But then there are cases like with the Forest Service or dealing with like Whatcom Land Trust or Whidbey Camano Land Trust where they don't want to do a final harvest. And so you can, to just accelerate the old growth process, you can thin really in perpetuity because, like you say, their goal is they want to create old growth forest. And so, like we said, there's really, in a true old growth forest, there's only about 10, maybe 15 trees per acre. And basically at about 60 years old, you can tell the trees that are gonna make it. You're like, oh, that is a dominant tree. And then even the ones around it that look good, but they're not dominant, eventually they're gonna die. So you could, you can just keep thinning. Yeah. Yes, sir.
The warmer summers and drier summers.
Yeah, we've experimented with the main thing that we do is just biodiversity. So back in the day, they would just plant 99% Doug fir, and there'd be a couple other species. But what we do now is a lot more. You plant a bunch of cedar, some hemlock, some fir, even some alder. And I know we haven't done it, but I know some small, larger landowners have started introducing, not pine. What's the sequoia trees from down south, and they seem to be doing pretty good. So, but it's really contingent on if your end goal is to harvest it, then where are you going to sell it and what product. And the mills around here they're for Doug fir and western hemlock, and then there's some cedar mills too. So yeah, thank you guys very much.
David, it sounds like you're taking over the business and doing a lot of signing that maybe Mike used to do. So from the greatest Rotary Club in the universe, here's a parting gift for you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. We can use some help breaking down if you can stay. I want to thank you all for coming. We did have a guest come. Mike, do you want to introduce our guest that's at the table there?
Yes, we have David's sister, Molly.
Very good. Welcome, Molly. Glad you could come. With that, I'll close the meeting. To the greatest Rotary Club in the